Hello and welcome to Fine is a Four-Letter Word. My guest today is Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
This is going to be a good conversation. I can already just tell from our pre-chat and yeah. So jumping right into it, what were the values and the beliefs that you were raised with that contributed to you becoming who you've become?
Oh my, values and beliefs that I was raised with. Totally different than what I am now. So I'm going to say absolutely nothing. I'm going to say a lot of nothing. I had to recreate a lot of my views and a lot of my values during this journey because I didn't really appreciate what I was given as a young one. I was born and raised as a Jehovah's Witness, and I had a mindset of being very quiet and very submissive and not having a voice and did not question anything ever, because I did try to do that a couple of times and it didn't really work out in my favor. So I learned very quickly to quiet myself. And along the journey, I ended up in very controlling, abusive relationships because of that personality trait that I had acquired at a young age. And in order to get out of those circumstances, I had to recreate myself. I had to find my own power. I had to figure out new value systems, new belief systems that were totally different than what I had previously held on to in order to become who I am today.
At what age did you start questioning what was going on, the things that you were being taught?
Young, probably 16, 17, but I didn't do anything. So when I finally started to voice myself would be 30. It was literally 30.
Okay.
I went to this, which you may have heard of it. It's called Landmark Forum. Yeah. It's like an education that you could get that a lot of people don't necessarily appreciate very much. But I freaking loved it because it was so different than anything I had ever heard of before. And that was kind of what catapulted me into the world of self-development. Full force. I had been to Tony Robbins. I had been to a gratitude course and stuff, but that whole genre of that is what really kind of forced me to use my mouth and actually think for myself. But go ahead.
I want to get more into that, but first I want to talk about the journey that brought you to that point. So backing up to, so you were questioning these values and beliefs as a Jehovah's Witness, and then you ended up leaving because why?
Well, I didn't leave. They kicked me out because I got pregnant.
Well, okay, yeah, right.
I got pregnant. I got pregnant when I was 20. So they have a rule where you're not supposed to date or do anything. You're not even supposed to hold hands with anybody. Which is why a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses get married super young because their hormones are raging. So they get married. My sister, for instance, got married at barely 19 years old. So anyways, I wasn't married. I was still single at 20, and I ended up pregnant. And if you end up sinning, then they kick you out. So I got kicked out, and I had a chance. I did wind up going back, repenting and doing all of the steps to get back in. But I got back in because they close off your entire community. So they totally cut you off from your entire family, your entire church, anything and everything that you ever knew. So you're desperately just trying to regain your identity back with these people. So I did end up back, but I wasn't mentally in. So it's called mentally in, physically in. It's the verbiage that we use in the JW world. So I was mentally out, but physically in. If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. So your parents totally cut you off when you got pregnant?
Yeah, for 2 years.
I just find that so hard to believe. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I know how strong those parental ties are, and to just cut off your child seems so I don't even have words.
It wasn't fun. So I had gotten in trouble before this also. So this was my second time around. I had had sex before marriage.
So you're a rebel.
Yes. That's what they would say. Yes. I had had sex at 19 or something like that. And I had gotten... anyways, so I had gotten in trouble already, and it was already known in our congregation. So I had already brought shame upon my family's name. So then I did the whole thing came back, and then I ended up again, but this time pregnant. So my parents freaked out, literally freaked out, because I kept it a secret for 4 months. Finally, they like brought me outside. They're like, what's going on? You're throwing up in the toilet. You're gaining weight. You're up till 3 o'clock in the morning. Like something is off. So I didn't even hesitate. I'm like, I'm pregnant. And that was not good. It was horrible. Kicked me out of the house, told me never to contact them again, told me to never call, don't ever ask for money, you're shame on the name. But then 24 hours later, I like called my boyfriend. He's coming to get me, going across state lines to like get all my stuff. And over that 24 hours of all of that stuff happening, my parents sat down with me and they said, hey, listen, what are you going to do here? Like, are you staying? Are you going? Like, we want to help, but like, what is wrong with you? You know, like, is this like a thing? Do you want to? And it was so much. It was so confusing. I was so embarrassed. I felt so bad for my parents. They had already said like a bunch of really, really mean things to me that like hurt my feelings. And like, only a few hours had passed. So my boyfriend's on the way. So like I had to make a decision to like, what am I going to do? So I just left. I'm like, I don't want to do this again to you guys. You guys are obviously super pissed at me. I don't want to be in that atmosphere. He's already on his way. So when I made that decision, they're like, fine, we're out. And everything was cut at that moment. And so, yeah, my son was born. We called to tell them and like no response. Yeah.
Wow.
Nothing.
Wow. Was your boyfriend part of that community?
That was the whole thing. That's what really like was really bad. But the thing is if you do stuff like that inside, they like coerce you to tell on each other. So if you want to like have a relationship, like my love language is physical touch. So like I'm like fiending for like anything. So you can't do that within that religion because they tell on each other. So I just knew out of experience that like it's better to keep that outside. But I ended up pregnant. So.
Okay. So now you and your boyfriend have this baby. Yeah. Where does the story go from there?
Horribly.
I mean, give us an overview because everything is obviously already not fine.
Yeah. So I end up, I have the baby. We're 3 months in. Dad is going to church with me, like reluctantly, not wanting to, just trying to like, whatever. 3 months in, the elders of our congregation sit down with me and they say, hey, listen, this is confusing. You're still living in sin. You need to make a decision to either marry him or leave him. You can't be doing this. God doesn't appreciate this. So me being dumb, thinking like God is going to somehow magically save me. I don't even know what I was thinking. I'm like, I just want to get back with God. I like want my mom. Like I want to be able to call my mom. So I'm just like, just dumb. And I went to my boyfriend and I was like, we got to break up. I'm trying to get right with God. I'm trying to do this, blah, blah, blah. And he flies off the handle and just leaves the state. No child support, nothing. He just runs away, which like makes sense. But I was like, well,
of course, in hindsight,
doesn't like make sense, but like, but it makes sense, right?
It's right. It's understandable. Especially because wait, how old was he? He was young.
Well,
too, right?
I was 21, and he was like 2 or 3 years older than me.
Yeah,
we're babies.
You both are so young. You're doing what you can with the knowledge and experience you have, which is not very much.
So it didn't occur to me, again, young, stupid, naive, that like I need money. So I thought that like he would just leave and then still like pay half. I don't know, child support. But he had no money. So he left, just like wanted nothing to do with me. And then I'm just sitting in this house or in this apartment, car, baby, daycare, food, diaper, all by myself. I have no college education. Church is still not talking to me because I'm still disfellowshipped, but they're making me make financial decisions, but they're not helping me financially. No parents, no nothing. So now I'm literally by myself. And I don't even know, wanting to kill myself, wanting to jump off a bridge, wanting to put my baby at the nearest fire station, wanting it to end, run away, just a mess. And I wind up falling into a relationship months later, like eviction notices on my apartment door, cars getting repoed out of the parking lot, all this stuff. I made a man who I think is like my savior. He's like going to help me. He's got his finances together. And long story short, very quickly, I move in with him. I quit my job, start working for him. I give up my phone and go under his phone bill. I give rid of my car and start using his car. And before I know it, within a very short amount of time, he's controlling my entire life. So I have no money still and have absolutely no control over anything going on in my life whatsoever. So mental abuse was horrific, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, obviously financial abuse. I had no money. And I did that I stayed with him for 13 years in total, utter misery. Not fine.
How did he treat yeah, not fine. But to everything on the outside, it probably looked fine, right?
Yes.
This is the whole thing.
Oh, beautiful.
To everyone else, everything
I played
was,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played that role perfectly. He loved it. Yeah, I played that role perfectly. But I played that role perfectly for my own, like, I had to. I had no other options.
Right.
You know?
Right. This is the thing that we talk about a lot in my Fuck Being Fine program and on other episodes, is that a lot of times people they say everything is fine because they don't want to acknowledge even to themselves that it's not.
Exactly. That's exactly where I was. Super crappy place to be. Yep.
Hang on one second. Are you hearing an echo?
No.
Okay, I am.
For your voice or my voice?
Mine.
No, I don't hear an echo from you at all.
How to fix this? Let me see something. Let me just look. Okay, I want to just look at my audio settings because it's set on the right things. Okay, well, we're going to keep going.
You might be able to cut out those little...
Yeah, it's hard to clear up an echo.
Oh, is it?
I'm still hearing it.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You sound absolutely perfect on this on my side.
Okay, well, hopefully then it will be okay. All right, we're going to keep going then. Just see, this is why we have a good editor.
Yes. Yes.
All right, so so you're not even admitting to yourself that everything is not fine, because what would that have meant that you would have to do? You would have to address it or take care of it or do something.
Make changes,
right?
yeah. And I couldn't financially make any changes because I didn't have any money to escape or go anywhere. So I was completely reliant or dependent on either him or somebody to help me because I had no money. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you have any friends?
Yeah, I mean, eventually, I had my best friend who I had forever, since Elijah was small. That was still one of the things that he was a narcissist. He's not a diagnosed narcissist, so I know people sometimes have a hard time with me saying that, but he is. Believe me. They move you around. So we started out in Chicago and ended up moving to Ohio, then ended up moving to Pennsylvania, then ended up moving to Florida. And they move you around when they feel that you're starting to create some sort of a community. So as soon as I would start to he saw something was going on, we would end up moving either states or cities. So like within those states, we also moved in the cities. But anyways, I had my best friend forever who I had from Chicago, who we kept in touch through phone or social media, whatever. And this when I actually left was a woman who I owe my life to. Her name is Dina, who contacted me. She was renting out her home. She knew I was in a situation because I had opened up to her. I had been saving money. And she, on a whim, she's just like, hey, listen, I'm moving out for just a little while, a couple years with my son. I'm renting out my house. You have a week or two, I don't know what she said, a week or two to decide. And then I'm listing it. So, make a decision. And she forced me to say yes to my life. If she wouldn't have done that, I don't know what would have happened. I think that the outcome would have been different because I was so scared shitless of change. Mm-hmm. So she pinned me down and she was like, make a decision right now. And within 2 days, if I could show you the inside of my body, it was boiling. I was so nervous, literally physically shaking in my boots in total turmoil of stepping out into my power, for real. But I did it.
Yeah. Something greater was calling to you to say that you can't stay in this place any longer. And no matter how scared you are, you have to do this. And now is the time. Here's the opportunity. It's like the universe talking to you saying, here it is. Yeah. You can't say no to this.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have, but it inspired you to say yes.
It was too perfect. It was way too perfect. And it kind of reminded me of that saying or that thing where they're you know what? I don't want to give that example. Can we cut that? I don't want to give that example. Never mind. Sure. It had to do with God, and I'm not really a God girl, so I don't want to associate with that. But anyways, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so you took the opportunity and you moved out, and were you married to him or he was just your boyfriend?
We were engaged. The last 4 years we were together. He had proposed to me 4 years prior. And the engagement weekend is actually the weekend that I decided to leave him, that was it. Yeah, it was this whole thing.
But you were waiting 4 years.
Yeah. Well, I had to save. Yeah, I had to.
Right.
I created a whole plan undercover to leave.
Why didn't you get married? Was it because you knew you were going to leave, or was it because did he keep asking you, when are we getting married?
Yes. Yes. He continued to ask me, and it was, I had to be very strategic. I had to be very tread lightly. I didn't want to marry him. I did not want to marry him. A few of my friends were like, just marry him, because at that point we had reached a financial level that was out of this world. I was working my ass off. He was playing golf every day, but I was working my ass off. I was running all the offices. I was running 100 people, door-to-door sales crews. And we had 5 houses paid off, 0 debt, 12 cars. We were just living great. And people were like, dude, you freaking worked your ass off. You need to take what's yours. And I just didn't I didn't want that whole mess. I wasn't with him for the money. I was with him because I honestly wanted a family. I honestly wanted it to work. I wasn't trying to get anything from him ever one time. And then when it got to that point where I finally realized it wasn't going to work, I didn't want all that drama. I just wanted to leave. I just wanted out. I wanted to leave. I didn't want any ties to him. I didn't want him to ever be able to say at one point, because I knew what I was going to build. The vision that I have and what I'm building right now, I already had that vision. I already knew what my story was going to be. I already knew what my voice was going to sound like. I already knew the platforms that I was going to be creating. And I didn't want him at any point during this journey that I'm creating right now for him to say yeah, the only reason she got that was because of whatever the frick he wanted to say, So.
Yeah. I have 2 questions. One, what happened when you left? Like, did he come after you? What happened? And then my second question is, how did you get this vision that you were already seeing?
Yeah. So, he did totally freak out. So what happened at the end, I had saved. So over the last 4 years I was with him, I opened up a secret bank account, a secret storage unit, eBay account, OfferUp account, and Fiverr account. And under the radar, he had no idea this was happening. I was listing stuff and selling stuff like out of the trunk of my car, basically. So like when he was like sleeping or not paying attention, I would like take all this stuff and just throw it in the trunk of my car, packing tape, scissors, envelopes, and crap all over the trunk of my car. And I was running this business out of the trunk of my car and my phone. And so over 4 years, at the end, I collected $50,000. It took me 4 years, but I was able to collect $50,000. But a year before I was going to leave, we always would have these for those of you that are in abusive relationships, you know that they're like explosive, like beyond. So an explosive argument happened, which is normal. And I used that excuse to move from his bedroom into the guest bedroom on purpose because I already knew what I was doing. So he didn't know. He just thought I was like angry. But I was like, that's it. I'm moving into the guest room. And it was this whole thing. I took all of my crap out of everything, bathroom, everything out of his room and put it in the guest room. And my son and I had Jack and Jill rooms sharing a bathroom for the last year for the last year I was there. So what I would do is every few days I would bundle up some of my stuff in my room, some of my stuff in my son's room. He didn't know. And I'd throw it in the trunk of my car. I'd take him to school, and then I would take the stuff in my trunk, drop it at my storage unit, and then just go about my day. So slowly I started emptying out stuff. And 2 weeks before I was supposed to actually like exit the relationship, he calls me up. I'll never forget it. I was at the Container Store living my best life. I've got money in the bank. I have my own place. I've already rented the house from that woman. I'm like showering over there. I am like feeling so powerful, and I'm waiting. I know that this day is coming, and it's just slowly approaching. But he calls me 2 weeks before the date, and he's just swearing like, "What the fuck is that? What? And I knew, but I was chill. I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I went into your room and I was to run the RoboVac, and I opened the closet and there's one fucking dress and I'm like a dress whore. So like my closet's full. Okay. But I had been selling stuff on eBay and all my shit was now at my house. So there was one dress, there was one thing in my closet. There were shoes and a dress. That's it. And because what I would do is I would just alternate. So I would just bring one dress with me every time because I knew it was coming, and I didn't want to have to like grab a bunch of stuff when I left. I wanted to just be able to like put it in my purse and walk out. So he's like, come home right now. You have my car, because I was driving his car. We need to talk about this. What are you doing? All the stuff that people say when you're breaking up. So I was like, I'll come home when I'm ready to come home. I'm doing something. I'm like, I'm busy. So I went about whatever I was doing. I was at the Container Store. I was getting stuff for like my place. And eventually I come home. I ate first. I made sure I ate. Came home. We sat down. He's like, let's just talk about it. He's very calm, collective. And gave him like an hour to like talk or whatever. And he already knew. I had told him 1,000 times I was leaving. Literally. So. But
he didn't believe you.
Yeah, no, because it had been 13 years.
Yeah. Right, of course. And he thought he had control of you. So why would he think
and he thought I had no money. So he's like, how are you doing this? He accused me of cheating. He's like, who are you moving in with? Who's paying you? Who's helping you? And I'm like, absolutely nobody. I'm literally doing this all by myself. So I grabbed my dress, grabbed my shoes, my toothbrush, whatever I had over there, and walked out the door with my bicycle. So my bicycle was still at his house. I dropped the keys to my car. I dropped my phone. I already had a new phone. I dropped my computer. Okay, I already got a new computer. And I had already set the whole thing up. And I walked out with my bag, with my couple things, and my bicycle. And I friggin' rode my bike to my house.
And he didn't follow you or try to get you?
Yeah, he did. I mean, it was a whole thing. He showed up. He knew where I lived. Right. He knew where she was my friend, so he knew where she lived. It eventually, where I stayed in the same area, so, But yeah, he'd show up, he'd knock on the door. He came in a couple times trying to get me back, accusing me of stealing some of his stuff. He'd be like, "This is my towel." And I'm like, "No, that towel is from Goodwill. I paid 50 cents for it. Thank you." Like, no. Accused me of stealing a tape measure, which, no, didn't steal your tape measure. So, and they're literally fighting over stuff like that. I'd be like, "Go back to your house right now, and that tape measure is in your toolbox. This is my tape measure." Like, just dumb stuff that he was trying to,
wow.
But, yeah.
So, so the more interesting question was that second one, which was, how did you come up with this plan? Because you're talking, when we started out here, you're like this naive little girl from Jehovah's Witness background and didn't know anything and had nothing, and then got involved with this relationship with somebody who was so controlling and still didn't really give you a lot of freedom. And you built this entire vision and this plan, and you were so patient about it. So organized and patient. Like, this is some incredible planning skills and execution skills.
Yeah. I always say that his decision to bring me into his life was the best decision he's ever made, and him allowing me to leave his life was the stupidest decision he's ever made. Because the only reason he got to where he got to, and I will say this until the day I die, I don't care what he says, the only reason he got to where he got to financially is because of me. When I first met him, he was literally working out of his little townhouse in a little loft on his second floor. And once he teamed up with, I'm like big vision. So like, you give me something, anything, I don't care what it is. You give me a coffee shop and we're going worldwide. Like, I don't give a fuck. So he gave me a business. He had a business. Now, when I was that young, I didn't know like, oh, I'm a big visionary. I just did what was innately inside of me to just grow big. Like, it's just in me to just take something and make it enormous. So within a very short amount of time, I was contacting new newspapers within the state, contacting other locations, and it just time after time after time just kept growing, and ended up, down here in Florida. I was still working with him down here in Florida. And started with one newspaper, went to 2, went to 3, went to 4. I hooked up with AT&T, I hooked up with ADT, I hooked up with Comcast. So it just grew exponentially. So when I was realizing like, hey, this isn't working. He's not a team player. Like, I'm pretty much out. He's putting me down constantly. He's telling me I'm stupid constantly. He's telling me that I don't know what I'm doing. Constantly telling me I don't know business. I don't know money. But like, everything just keeps growing. It was exactly what a narcissist does. And when I started reading about empowering, I started reading about finances, I started reading about all this stuff later on, once I was leaving, I started to realize like, oh my gosh, I'm already doing all of this. I'm just doing it for somebody else. I'm helping somebody else build their kingdom. I need to start building my own kingdom. So I just kind of dove into what I was already doing, which was helping myself. And I was like, if I can take what I am doing for myself right now, and I can give the same exact information for somebody else to learn, to be able to do the same thing for their life, genius, absolutely genius. So I started working on my company, 2 or 3 years, right when I was ready to leave. I was already opening up my websites. Like, I had websites going that like he didn't know about. Like, my name was already being published. I was already starting a YouTube channel, but I just wasn't marketing or telling him about anything. So he didn't even know to Google it. And he wasn't on social media. He's 10 or 11 years older than me. So that was like, he wasn't on there to even know to look things up. So yeah, and it's just snowballed into what it's becoming. and I'm still in the baby stages. Like, I'm going real big. So it's just, I've come a long, long ways, but we still have a long, long ways to go. And I'm super excited about it.
I love it. I'm so excited for you. Now I want to come back to you mentioned Landmark. How did you find, what are the tools that you used to, I don't know if heal yourself is the right term, but to, I guess it partially is because you went through a lot of trauma, and to bring yourself to this healthier place where you are now. How did you find those tools? What were they?
Yeah.
Talk about that.
So the main one that I used consistently, if I was going to give advice, would be I came out of victimhood. So my majority of my life, all this that I'm doing right now is only over the past 10 years. So for the majority of my life, I'm almost 40. I'm going to be 40 this year. So the majority of my life, I was just playing the victim. I was, woe is me, poor me, he does this, he did that, they did this to me, and I am this way because of them. And it's very disempowering. And I learned that I need to take my power back. And I learned that every single situation and every single struggle that I've ever been through in my entire life taught me something. And that is my advice to anybody. If there's just one thing, you have to look back at your challenges and your past struggles and figure out what was the lesson that you learned from that circumstance. Because there is now a tool that you have that's like lost somewhere because we're not organized as people, but it's like lost in there that you have right now because of those circumstances that you were in. So you have to like organize your toolbox and find out, what did you do? What did you learn from that? And then once your tools are organized, then as you go through life and you start getting more challenges and more struggles, you have some tools to pick from, and then you continue to build more tools as you go along. So what are you learning?
That's such a good analogy. Yeah. Such a good analogy about the tools and choosing the tools from the box.
Yeah, we're always learning. That's all we're doing, actually. There's literally nothing else that we're doing. There's nothing. We eat and we sleep, but the only thing we are always ever doing is learning. That's it. And then you die.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. That's exactly it. We put so much pressure on ourselves and so much meaning into everything that we're doing every day, and it really just comes back to we're learning. We're on this path and we're learning as we go along. And I would throw in, and we're also here to have fun. So throw some of that into the whole learning experience. Learning can be fun. Didn't we learn that on Sesame Street?
Yes. I agree with you on that. That's great.
Yeah. Cool. So you mentioned Landmark. Were there other tools that were specifically influential to you, or practices that you continue to partake in now?
I mean, yeah, a big one that's coming to mind now is the word "and." So, living with the acknowledgement of things don't have to be either or. A lot of times people think that they have to, when they're making decisions in life, like it can either be this or it could be that. And we need to, sometimes yes, but a lot of times the things in our life can be added to. So it doesn't have to be yes or no. It could be yes and no. I'm trying to think of like an actual,
or yes and yes.
I'm trying to think of like an actual example of that. That's like, for some reason, I guess I'm hungry. I'm thinking of a sandwich. Like, do you want spaghetti or do you want a sandwich? And you can literally be like a sandwich and spaghetti. Like you can do both. But there's real life examples with that. And I apologize for not being able to think of one. But, living in a world of and versus arguing with people, over things. So, did you do this and this and this? Yes, I did. And I didn't mean to do that. Did you say it, you said it this way and you hurt my feelings? Yes. And, you frustrated me, so it kind of allows us to be able to live in a world of both Both people can be right. You can have more than just one or the other. It's more abundance. It's living in more abundance, I think, in a lot of areas.
Yeah, recognizing that we live in an abundant universe, and there is so much more available once you start seeing it. It's that being open to it and seeing the possibilities.
Like I can be a mother and be wealthy. I can be a single mother and, have my own life. There's a lot of times we think it's either or. Like if you're a single mom, then you can't get married. If you're a mother, then you can't be an entrepreneur. And it's not that way. You can be more. You can end your life a lot more. If you get creative, you have to be creative. Our brains are meant to create. They're like imagination factories. So, we have to like start thinking bigger and broader. Like, what if? What if? Can you add more ands into your life?
Wasn't it Walt Disney who said the imagination is like a preview of coming attractions?
I love it. I don't know, but it's true. Yes. That's one of the things that I teach. A lot of the foundation of what I teach is time management and organization. And I talk about all the time that we need to start getting that stuff out of our head and putting it down on paper, because we're not leaving enough room for our brains to be able to create solutions for the problems that we have in our life, to create the brilliance that we're supposed to have in our life, because we have our grocery list taking up freaking room in our brain. Or arguments that we're having with our mother, or whatever it is. Like, we got to get that shit out. You got to take it out and write it down so that we can open up and allow, actual creativity to be happening inside our head.
Yes, and I admit I'm not a great journaler. I don't do it consistently, but I also wasn't a meditator for very consistently for a long time. And now look at me, that's what I'm teaching people. So
I love that.
I'm doing it. I'm teaching it, but yes. And the journaling part maybe is the next part. Is that something that you do? It sounds like something you do.
Yeah. My journaling is different at the moment. My journaling, and it's morphed though. It's evolved and it's constantly evolving. But my journaling has turned into a conglomerate of note taking after podcasts. So like after I jump off a podcast like this, I have whole notebooks filled with just things that I learned, things that I appreciated, things that I want to change, things that reminded me of something else that is triggered something, feelings, thoughts. Just get it all down on paper. When I was younger, it used to be very much like, today yesterday I am mad at my mom, or my boyfriend sucks, or whatever it is.
More of a diary.
Yeah. Now it's become more of a vomit of like all of the things that are going on in my head all of the time, because it's a lot. But I think it's always important to be writing things down. I actually, on Mondays, I don't know if you've ever seen me, but on Mondays I come on. Not at a specific time. I think I do that unconsciously on purpose. But on Mondays, I sit down and I read from my old journals. I started when I was, from when I was 12. I think I'm at age 15 or 16 now. I'm reading them in chronological order. So it's going to get more and more juicy. I'm like so scared. But I'm reading in chronological order all of the stuff. I've got so many journals over the years. So it's definitely been a journey, and I definitely recommend it. I have journals for sale on my Amazon page. I think that it is important to be writing stuff down. And it doesn't have to be like every single day. Sometimes you don't have to write stuff down. Other times you do. So I think you kind of have to pick and choose.
Wow, you have just given us so much to think about, process, work with. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Before we go, I got to ask you, what is the song that you listen to? I mean, you have a very high level of energy already. So let's say you need to take it up a notch. What is the song you listen to?
So as soon as you ask this question, I go to immediately. There was no hesitation with Katy Perry, Roar, R-O-A-R. My son and I, and I still have this memory in my head vividly, and I will have this memory until the day I die. But when that song came on, that was the song that my son and I would scream. And he was young. I mean, he was maybe 10. I don't know when that song came out. But he was young. And we would sing that song from the bottoms of our souls, with just all of the passion that you could possibly pull from our bodies. And I remember specifically one day, I'm going to get teary-eyed. One day we were at a stoplight pulling into our neighborhood, and the song came on. And he goes, "Mom, this is our jam." And we locked eyes. And it was just such a euphoric feeling of like mother and son. It was just so beautiful. And he didn't know this, or maybe he did, but I was so taken back at that moment that I literally couldn't sing the song because I was crying so badly out of like so much happiness. Just so happy that I'm his mom, so happy that he loves me, so happy that we're so free and we're so joyful and like comfortable with each other. And it felt good. It felt really good. So that song had a meaning before even that time, because we used to sing it all the time. But for some reason that day, it just locked into my soul. And still, when I watch it, when you had asked this question, I actually rewatched it because I wanted to make sure. I was like, the roar, is it roaring or whatever? I rewatched it, and I'm just tears of like powerful tears. But it's such a powerful song, and it's everything that I stand for within my brand, within the transformation teaching that I teach. It is the mantra of for sure.
Fantastic. So you just mentioned what you that you teach and that you have a program. So if people wanted to continue a conversation with you, where would be the best place for them to reach you?
So my main website is just my name, SabrinaVictoria.com. And all of the projects and companies and communities that I work with are there, along with all of my social media.
Beautiful. Yes. Thank you so much for joining me today on Fine is a Four-Letter Word, Sabrina.
Thank you. This was fantastic.